Wow, what a performance. Where does this masterful domination by the Seahawks defense rank that unit amongst the all-time championship favorites?
And for New England's woes, who do you blame? The inept offensive line or Mr. Fumble Saccarudi himself, Drake Maye?
The Super Bowl 60 came with some highlights and a lot more lowlights. We'll break it all down on Sunday Scaries with Bucks McGee.
Super Bowl 60. Figured we would have went out with a bang, but if you're New England, you went out with a whimper and a question of what the hell happened. Oh Lord, oh Lord, oh Lord.
Bucks McGee, I could tell you one thing that happened. Not just this Super Bowl was just the exclamation point on a very not good look for the AFC.
I don't know, man. Like I guess that's what it is. I guess the AFC were maybe as a whole a fraudulent conference. I don't know, but you've got to give the flowers to Seattle's defense because honestly, they didn't have to score a touchdown to win this game.
No. But yeah, by the time we were at the end of it, the defense and Jason Myers could have gotten it all done.
Exactly. You could have had a kicker be the MVP, literally, because it was just not one of the
I was
more
hoping.
exciting. You were
I
hoping.
was hoping for
You were
it.
like, kicker, finally, give it to the kicker.
Yeah, I wanted the shutout. I wanted the kicker MVP. I wanted a historic Super Bowl of all the worst possible things.
And we almost got it. It just literally one of the probably one of the Super Bowls where I just was like, okay, whatever. Very just it was just depressing.
Yes. It was like two and a half quarters of very lackluster performance from Seattle, and then 3 quarters of an absolute dismal performance from New England. A little bit of excitement in the fourth, and not much, but not much.
No, basically Seattle said, "All right, well, our offense really can't do much, so we'll let the defense handle the show, and as
Yeah.
long as we get close enough to kick it, then that's how we'll live. We'll live and die by the kicker." And Seattle was dominant defensively. You've got to give them their flowers, nothing but respect. And right now, New England's got tons of questions with that offensive line because that offensive line was horrible.
Oh yeah, very, especially in the first half. Very, very, very bad. And those 5 field goals by Jason Myers, the longest one, two of them went 41. So, like you said, just get close enough to kick. It was just like a 75, 80% type of offense.
It was like, all right, Sam, we're going to put you in a position where you don't have to do much. Because let's be honest, like, give Sam his flowers. Sam's a Super Bowl champ, but it wasn't like Sam Darnold lit up this defense. He was smart. He did what he
Yeah.
needed to do. And basically, they hung their hat on the run game, and Sam made some key throws. But overall, it wasn't like it was a dominant performance from the quarterback.
No, Keith making key throws and not making mistakes, probably even more important.
Yeah, and there was a point where we were kind of like, especially at the beginning of the game, there were some throws, especially that throw at the beginning of the game to, Najigba. We were like, oh, this is gonna bust it open, and he missed that,
Yeah.
and we were like, oh, is Sam seeing stuff? We were like,
Yeah.
oh, but no. At the end of the day, he kept the ball out of harm's way, and that's all you can ask for. And out of that draft class, he's the first QB I think to pull out a ring. So
Yeah.
let's be real here.
Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, who are you staring up at?
Sam Darnold. Wow.
Now,
Wow.
of course, the big story out of the game is the defense. This was similar, but as we've spoken in the past, a slightly different type of defense than the Legion of Boom. So just what did this defense kind of cement themselves in the legacy of all-time Super Bowl defense, championship defenses?
Dude, that front four was impressive as all hell. Like, let's be
Yeah,
realistic. It wasn't like they were doing anything insane. They were just straight rushing the quarterback. They would bring up a corner and literally said, hey, "This is what we're gonna do. Stop it." And New England could not stop it whatsoever.
yeah. The game plan was very simple: blitz, blitz,
Yeah.
blitz, blitz.
Yep. They're going, yeah, by the way, we're gonna blitz, just so you know. And it literally felt like it was the same blitz over and over again. And New England's, left side with, Campbell. They had rookies on the left side. They would have tried to change it up, do a little something, but nope. New England stuck to their guns, and unfortunately, it caught up with them. Seattle just brought it time and time again, and Drake Maye just had no time whatsoever.
It's a weird look for New England. We're not used to seeing Patriots with poor offensive line performance. That was something that always kept Tom Brady clean over the years. That was never a part of the New England Patriots that showed much struggle.
No, definitely. And they could have used some veterans on that left side for sure. But Seattle knew exactly what they were going to do. They're like, we're going to hit the rookies because Will Campbell has had problems all year, especially in the playoffs. It's fact. Like especially against Denver, like it was just nonstop. And then against the Texans, they just came at them at that side, and New England just felt like they didn't do anything to save Campbell, to help out. Yeah, a couple times, there were some times where they went six, offensive linemen, but it didn't matter. Seattle would send four, blitz a corner, and they could not stop it.
And we'll get more into Drake May in a little bit, but the fact that, like you said, all Seattle needed to do was just pressure, 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 blitz, 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 because the secondary that was we thought, other than the Rams game, we thought the secondary was where Seattle's defense shone the most. But their secondary, it was just straight do your job and cover people. They weren't creating turnovers till late in the second half. The success here was completely on the front of the line. The secondary
Yeah,
was a bit just not, I don't want to say pedestrian. They did their job, but they were not creating the highlight plays and the turnovers for most of the game.
they didn't get a chance to because the freaking front four were freaking causing sacks, and they were causing havoc. So the secondary just had to sit back and say, okay, we'll just do what we need to do, and that's it. It was almost like they were just hanging back there saying, we don't have to do anything because our
Yeah,
front, they're sending four, and New England can't stop it. So they're like, all right, cool. You guys want the glory? Go ahead, make my job easier.
yeah. A coverage's best friend is a pass rush.
Yep, and that pass rush was incredible.
Why I have been screaming at Chris Ballard for 6 years now to draft another edge rusher, which he refuses to do.
If the other 31 teams in the league sat there tonight and said, 30 teams said, yeah, this is what we need to do, then come draft time, that's what you need.
And you know what? It shouldn't it's funny how this feels like such a revealing breaking news of sorts, because that's how the Giants beat the Patriots twice. That's how Tampa Bay beat Patrick Mahomes. It's in a Super Bowl, when it's a lopsided victory, it's always about pressure on the quarterback. So it's a bit kind of astounding that teams, this is kind of like fresh news.
It's one of those things where Seattle's drafted well and just had the right pieces, made the right moves, and this defense is prime right now. They've got youth, they got veterans, but not too old. Like, this defense is going to carry this team for the next 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, and they better hope that they can keep them together, because there are a lot of contracts for the Seahawks up for renewal in the offseason. John Schneider's got his work cut out for him.
Yeah, you're going to have to sit there, and it may be a situation where yeah, some guys may walk, but you got to keep as many key pieces as you can, because I'll be honest, you've got your offensive coordinator's leaving, Kubiak's leaving, he's going to the Raiders. So at this point, your offense may suffer, may not. I don't know if it's going to be the same, but every time you change a coordinator, things change. So you're going to have
Mhm.
to hang your head on the defense. So it might be a situation, depending on what you've got offensively that's coming up in contracts. You may say, all right, well, we might have to skip on the offense and just hang our head on the defense.
Yeah, ask the Lions and ask the Eagles how much hurt losing a coordinator hurts.
Yep,
hell,
exactly.
hell, ask your Bucks. You guys know that too.
Yeah, it's one of those things, a coordinator makes all the difference. So
Yeah.
it's going to be interesting how Seattle goes into the offseason, but this defense is this defense is legit, especially the front, like you saw tonight. So they're in good hands, at least for the next couple of years.
Now, the defense was the story of the game. But it was very much a collective story. There was no one standout performance from it. So the MVP goes to one Kenny Walker, which we spent quite a bit of time in the pregame as far as the impact he could have on this game. And he very much had a big impact because aside from Jason Myers' leg, Kenny Walker's ability to churn out yards was the main reason why Seattle was able to keep a lead throughout the first half and good chunk of the third.
Oh yeah, basically Kenny Walker kept that offense afloat. You've got to give New England's defense credit. New England's defense hung as much as they could. It's not like their defense didn't show up. Christian Gonzalez played a hell of a game. They kept Najigba in check, and overall their defense was great. But Kenny Walker did enough to keep that offense moving and put them in a situation where, yeah, at I think most of America at some point thought, oh yeah, this is just going to be a kicker's game.
Yeah.
The Seahawks are just going to put up points via the kick because New England can't do a damn thing. So at that point, you're sitting there going, all right, they're going to hang their hat on Kenny Walker, and it was smart. He was able to move the ball. He churned out yards and put them in position.
At one point, when the Patriots started to show life late in the game, the Seahawks were not running the ball, and I'm having flashbacks to the infamous Atlanta Falcons 28-3, and I'm like, oh no, Seattle's gonna do this nonsense.
You were like, wow, this is how it's going to be, huh? This is how New England
Yeah.
does it again. But, it New England just couldn't put it together. Like I said, Drake Maye couldn't get comfortable in the pocket. I didn't like their offensive game plan. It was like they were trying to go deep. Like they needed to play a short, quick passing game because Seattle was just bringing the heat the whole game. And I think the way you defend against that is quick passes, and you're like, all right, well, if you're gonna bring the house, then we're gonna find holes. And there were parts in the game, especially the second half, where New England started to do that, but then went back to trying to throw the ball deep, trying to, and unfortunately at that point they had to, try to get chunk plays, to get the game somewhat close, but they just couldn't do it. So New England also the run game. It seemed like there were times they just got away from that too, and I felt New England would be able to run the ball somewhat, and I think there were points where a couple plays where you'd see New England run the ball a bit and say, okay, maybe something's coming about it, but then nope, they'd go back to trying to get 30, 40 yards at a clip. I don't know.
Yeah, another game where Henderson was pretty much a non-factor, and
Mm-hmm.
like you said, Stevenson kind of went back to the Ramondre Stevenson we know of. We did have a little back and forth off air about their offensive strategy because these are not the Patriots with the Wes Welkers and the Julian Edelmans, and you brought up the fact that they could have started to use Stephon Diggs, who is more traditionally a downfield guy, in that kind of slot role.
Yeah, or so Mac Hollins. Even though he stretched the field a little bit and got their first touchdown, but it was like they were looking. It seemed like they were just looking to go deep the whole game, and it was like, all right, use the middle of the field, take your time, eat up the clock. If all your defense is giving up is 3 points, take your time, eat up the clock, get yourself. If you can get a touchdown, get yourself a touchdown, and that's going to negate some things. And it just seemed like Drake Maye was just looking for the deep ball the whole game. And Seattle said, all right, if that's what you want to do, that's fine. We're going to bring the heat. and we're going to knock you around. And that's what they did all game.
Yeah. More on young Mr. Drake May. They brought him a couple times during the game. Like, they had a relatively easy run to the Super Bowl, but they brought up that it's not necessarily an easy thing to get to the Super Bowl all the time, as Dan Marino learned once very long ago, another extremely young quarterback to make it. So this was very much at, in the most kindest way possible, a learning curve for young Mr. May with 3 turnovers.
Yeah, like, all you can do is sit back, watch the tape, and say, okay, now, going forward, if I get into the situation again, I got to do something different. But like you said, Marino only had one shot. So now it's not a guarantee that New England, is back here next year. There were some things that fell in their favor. Bo Nix, the injury, um, CJ Stroud having a horrible playoff game. Things fell into place for them. Now it's okay. Next year, what does Buffalo do? Like it's going to be interesting how the AFC really pans out. We don't know what the Chiefs are going to do. There's a lot of teams that were just a couple pieces away from probably challenging New England, and this may have been New England's only chance.
I will say, he did, despite the 3 turnovers. Those turnovers didn't come for a while. Most of Drake May's struggles were just not being able to deal with the offensive line not showing up, not being able to deal with that pressure, not having any time to make a play, and not relying on his legs, which we've seen so much success out of him in this postseason and in the season overall, I suppose. So a lot of it was just a lot of his struggles were poor play before the turnovers eventually came around and bit him.
Yeah, it was just to the point where he couldn't get in the pocket, he couldn't deliver. He was constantly under pressure. It came down to the offensive line. The offensive line really failed this team. You know, you don't want to sit there and be like, okay, well, you don't want to point blame, but that's what happened. And Seattle knew we're gonna shoot, we're gonna come after the rookies, on that side of the line, and New England's gonna have to figure it out. And then after a while, most of America sat there and said, all they're gonna do is blitz. They're gonna come after this side. They're gonna send the corner. Like this is what Seattle's plan was, and New England just couldn't deal with it. They couldn't handle it, and as the game went on, that wears a line down, and it was just to the point where it was okay. It's just a matter of time before Seattle puts a touchdown on the board, and then this
Yeah.
game gets out of reach.
Yeah, the defense, like you said earlier, the defense did their part in hanging around long enough. But it's like the sleeping dragon with Seattle's offense.
Yeah, there was gonna take enough time where Seattle was gonna be able to score a touchdown, and then at that point the game was gonna be out of reach. And that's exactly what happened. I give New England's defense credit; those guys hung in and really locked down Seattle. I think a lot of people thought Seattle's offense was gonna really, be able to move the ball up and down the field, and Seattle's and New England's defense did their part. It's just their offense couldn't hold up their end of the bargain.
Do you think they could have pivoted to a strategy like Seattle was, relying on the running game more, or was that just not going to happen based on what their offense looked like?
If we had saw that they had made a conscious effort to try to run the ball a bit more, maybe something could have, play action, something could have happened. But it was like, okay, we're gonna run a little bit. All right, forget it. Now we're gonna just have Drake in the shotgun and just hope something comes available. But the problem was that the defense was just constantly getting to him, and some of the throws he made down the field were just balls just hanging in the air. Some of them they were either too far out. There was one ball that he threw to Booty. I don't know why he threw it to Booty. Booty steps out of bounds. There's no reason to throw the ball to him, but he still throws it, and it could have been a pick.
Yeah.
It was just, the passing game just wasn't there, and they didn't try to create anything with the run game, and they were just a mess.
Yeah. And I do want to spend a brief moment here going over their opponents for next year, being that so much of the story for the Patriots was, a quote unquote cupcake schedule and, a relatively fortuitous the way their opponents played out in the postseason. So their opponents next year are, of course, the Bills twice, Jacksonville, Super Bowl, then a Super Bowl rematch. They have the Chargers, they have the Chiefs, they have the Lions, they have the Bears, they have Pittsburgh, Minnesota, Denver, and the Packers. So
Well,
that cupcake argument will go out the window next year.
yeah, that's what happens when, you go 14-3, 13, 14, 13-4, whatever. Like when you put up the numbers the next year, that the schedule is not pretty. So
Yeah.
now they're going to have to sit there and prove that this wasn't a fluke, and they're going to have to put up. Now, a lot of those teams have great pass rushers and such. So now they're going to have to worry about this line, figure out what went wrong tonight, get that fixed, because teams are going to sit there and say, oh, well, in the Super Bowl, all Seattle did was just rush that left side, and Will Campbell was a mess along with everybody else next to him. So that's all we've got to do. It's going to be interesting. But if New England, can play close to what they did this year and, win 12, 13 games, then they're legit. But that offensive line has got to get fixed.
Yeah. Number one priority going into the offseason, I would suppose.
Yep. Spend whatever. If you've got the money, fix that side. Yeah, Will Campbell was your number one draft pick, but you got to get this kid right. And if that means, getting a veteran next to him to help him out, then that's fine. But you also have to get some guys, on the bench and such that, can spell him if he can't get out of his own way.
Pardon my brevity here. Young MacDonald built a defense. E-I-E-I-O.
Oh, and he did. He did. This defense is like I've said, this defense is legit. It's the best defense in the league. Got to give them their props, give them their flowers. I think this defense is going to carry them next year. Like I said, I don't know what this team is going to be since they're losing, their offensive coordinator to the Raiders. Who knows what's going to happen? But this defense is legit and no doubt the best in the league.
And it's one that how it's kind of turned the public perception of this franchise over the last 20 years, really. This is, their second Super Bowl championship, 4 appearances in the last 20 years. The Seahawks franchise was a punchline at one point.
Oh yeah, it definitely was. And now they are at the point now where, they are, NFC, well, at least going into next year, NFC elite, but it's one of those things where, yeah, you win the Super Bowl, now it's what you do the next year. They're going to celebrate and they have every right to, but the NFL is always a what have you done for me lately league. So once the celebrations are over, is there going to be a hangover? Are the Rams going to sit there and, tune things up? Is Philly going to sit there and say, okay, we dropped the ball. They've got to fix their issues. There's some other teams that, we're starting to creep up. The NFC, for a while, people were like, oh man, this is the soft conference. Like there's really nothing there. This was only a couple of years ago. Now all of a sudden you're looking at the NFC and you're like, there's some dogs in this conference. And then you look at the AFC and you're like, there's some teams in flux. We don't know what the Chiefs are going to be. The Ravens are our favorite fraudulent penthouses. We don't know what they're going to be with a new head coach. The whole, the AFC West is going to be interesting. The AFC South, there's a lot of interesting pieces, and there's been some changes.
Shame on you, Buccs McGee, for forgetting the Bengals.
No one cares about the Bengals. Okay, so they're going to put up 42 points and give up 48 points. Okay, it's the Bengals. All right, whatever.
Well, the other thing with the Seahawks is this is a team that was there all year. They got the number one seed, but nobody really noticed them until the last handful of games. They flew under the radar. Everyone was talking about Matthew Stafford. Everyone was talking about the circus that was Caleb Williams at the time. Everyone was talking about the downfall of the Lions. Everyone was talking about the injury riddled Green Bay Packers. Everyone was focused on the defending champs and their identity crises. So it was, for as dominant as Seattle was, they really kind of skirted by everyone's expectations all year long. Kind of people kind of forgot about the Seahawks until the end of the season into the playoffs.
I think what it was, like their defense was slowly starting to build. But I think the big thing was no one trusted Sam Darnold. Everyone was waiting for Sam to drop the ball. It
Yeah,
was like okay, when's it gonna happen? When's it gonna happen? It's gonna happen soon. Sam's gonna see the ghosts. It's just gonna be, can he carry this offense? Can he carry this team? And it was a situation where throughout the playoffs, Sam put up some numbers. You get to the Super Bowl, the defense says, all right, we've got it. Don't worry about it. Sam does his thing. Excuse me. Hate to use the term game manager. Did
yeah,
his thing. Didn't do too much. Did just enough. And the defense carried him to a title.
yeah. All right, Bucks McGee, fun stuff. No, I'm not. I'm not one. I'm not super. I'm not one that's familiar with Bad Bunny's music. In fact, I really didn't know of him before they made the announcement a few months back. But I could at least still appreciate the visuals of the show, with the kind of cornfield slash tropical palm trees looking field across the field to play. What were your takes on the halftime show?
I thought it was fun. I liked it. Yeah, there was a lot of hidden. If you don't know Bad Bunny and things of that nature, there was a lot of hidden messages in the music, in the visuals, But overall, I think it was fun. I thought Lady Gaga was cool. Overall, it just like I said, it was, if you know his music, okay, cool. It was fun. I liked it. I wasn't like some individuals who were kind of like, no, this is ridiculous, yada yada yada. It's a halftime show. Like, there's no reason to get all crazy over it. Like, if you don't like it, just turn it down, enjoy your party, and then when the game comes on, turn the music back up. But overall, I thought it was a good halftime show.
And of course, the commercials. So we'll go through some of our favorites here. I think I
Okay.
know which one's yours.
Oh, I know you know, but go ahead. Go ahead, man. Go ahead.
Goodwill Duncan. Very much an ode to 90s sitcoms of years past.
The best commercial of the night. I thought it was hilarious. And you know which part I thought was the best part.
Hi, I'm Tom.
Jennifer Aniston, and then there's Tom with the freaking hair. I lost it. I stood up and applauded. People at my house were like looking at me. I'm like, you pay this man respect. I thought it was a fun commercial. I really did. It was like everyone, Goodwill Hunting. Everybody knows the movie. I thought it was funny. I loved it.
Carlton Banks and Steve Urkel jumping in the fray too, and Ben Affleck looking very much like his bro Matt Damon.
I'm telling you, man. And then you had like Ted Danson from Cheers. I'm like, yo, CGI. I'm like, CGI is a creepy thing, man.
What did he say? Be there. Don't be here 25 years from now. Still working at Dunkin' Donuts.
It almost had a Kevin Smith kind of feel to it. He's like, yeah, man, don't be here. And I was like, wow. But yeah, I thought it was a fun commercial.
Speaking of creepy CGI, although I did love the commercial and for different reasons, because I don't think there's anyone who's ever experienced Xfinity Internet that thinks that could have saved Jurassic Park from going offline.
No, not at all. I was like, Dude, Jeff Goldblum looked creepy. I was
Yeah,
like,
talk about the dangers of AI. All of them, Lauren Dern, Sam Neill. It's like
I'm look
this can't be right. I don't trust this.
I'm like looking at them and I'm like, they just don't look right. It was almost like the beginning of CGI. I'm like, yeah, they whoever came up with this really messed it up. But that one was cool too. I did like that one.
That is
Yeah,
one
but
big pile of shrimp.
I know. And in my head, I'm playing the movie and I'm like, that's not what he said, but okay, we're going with that. But overall, I'm like, that was fun. That one was entertaining.
Another one was something we've enjoyed over the last several months are the Uber Eats bromance between Matthew McConaughey and Bradley Cooper. It's the
That
Football
one,
Hall of Fame. It's a juicer.
I lost it when he lifts it up and I'm like, wow. I'm like, yo, this is legit. At that point, I've bought in. I'm like, yo, they're right. This is legit. I've bought in at this point. Um, but yeah, that one I've throughout the season I've liked those. I think they've been funny, but this kind of put the cherry on top. Just solid and just funny. Matthew McConaughey, you can't miss with him. He's just good.
And one that I know warmed your heart a little bit, although it came off a little bit creepy. And I don't want to dash on the cause because early detection for prostate cancer, amongst other cancers, is of course very important. But your 2020 Bucks making a cameo with the infamous line, "Relax your tight end."
That's right. My boy, Coach Bruce Arian and my boy Gronk. That's right. 5-year anniversary, baby. 5 years. Hey, you got to do what you got to do, and if you've got to bring greatness out for a good cause, why not the 2020 Bucks?
Very much jiggle shakes, of course, several rear ends throughout that.
That and, the,
Very
and that
confused.
well, that one and then the Levi's commercial where it was just booty shaking the whole time, and I'm like, all right, I like Levi's jeans. I own some myself. I'm like, I don't need to see this derriere shaking as much as I did, but hey, so be.
Any other ones you want to pull out?
Wow,
That
no,
stuck in
I
your
think
brain?
no, I think those were the ones. I think everything. The other one, there was really nothing else that really I was like, wow, this year kind of. I won't lie, the Guy Fieri one wasn't too bad. I did like the Guy Fieri one because I'm sitting there and I'm like, it looks like a toupee. I like it. It's funny. And then all of a sudden he morphs back to the spiky hair and it's back and forth. And I'm like, all right, Guy Fieri, I dig him. I watch a lot of his stuff. So I'm like, all right, that's funny. But everything else was like, it just seemed like it was a low key year for commercials.
Very much so. And there weren't a lot that I was spoiled beforehand. The only one that I could say I saw beforehand was the Clydesdale American Eagle, super patriotic Budweiser for America's 250. That was the only one I
Yeah,
saw before the game.
yeah, exactly. The other ones were pretty good, and I was pretty good in not seeing beforehand. But yeah, it was a low key year for commercials. It was like, all right, cool, nothing too much. Kind of fit the game, like pretty much a defensive battle, and America's like, oh great, this is what this is gonna be. And then fourth quarter, halfway through the third, there's some points up, but overall, commercials decent.
Well, Bucks McGee, the 2025 season, the 2026 playoffs, and Super Bowl 60 are in the books. Sir, I give you solo stage. Please take us off air with your final thoughts from Super Bowl 60 and the 25-26 season.
Wow, this is a lot, man. We've been doing this a couple of years, and every year is a little different. This year's been fun. There's been a lot of craziness. Give respect to New England. They've gotten back, to the mountain for the most part. Um, didn't get the job done, so you've got to give Seattle their flowers. Great year. Sam Darnold, much respect. You go from ghosts to who knows if you're going to be in the league much longer to a Super Bowl champ. So it gives hope for those guys who have been bouncing around. but it also gives cause for guys like Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. Sam Darnold was the guy in your draft class. You guys are supposed to have some rings before him. There's going to be some changes in the league. Next year should be interesting. I can't wait for it. Nutmeg, it's going to be a crazy one, and let's hope that, Super Bowl 61 has some fireworks. Can't wait.